Hey everyone, welcome to Pokélosophy. Pokélosophy is my YouTube channel where I play the original games of Pokemon and try to analyze and take apart these games to look for motifs, symbolism, micro-narratives, and stories that we can apply back to our own lives to help us introspect us grow as people. So, today I'm doing a non-gameplay video, so I do apologize to some folks. Usually what I do is go into the game or maybe talk about something from philosophy or life and then play the game after. I'm actually just doing a roster update. I haven't done any sort of roster update of what Pokemon are in my lineup. So I decided before I leave Vermilion City, it might be a good idea just to go over how I'm thinking about building my Pokemon roster to beat the Elite Four. And it only made sense to go to something that I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, but something that's like kind of near and dear to my heart, and that is basketball. So I'm gonna start off with a quote with Masai Ujiri. So for some context, I'm actually a former Toronto resident, and I was there in 2019 during the Toronto Raptors championship run. But my story with the Raptors goes further back than that. I remember when Masai Ujiri was brought on to be a GM, and now I think he's vice president operations of the Maple Leafs Entertainment. I forgot his full title now, but he's not the same kind of GM as he is anymore. But when he came back to the Raptors, because he used to be a scout for the Raptors, and after his success in Denver, I knew we were in good hands. My friends were hyping Masai up, and there's a lot of these memes about like, oh, let's how can I put this? It's like, trust the process, believe in Masai, we believe in you. It was just constant for years. And then eventually it happened. We ended up winning the chip. But I'll start with a quote because Masai is actually someone who I draw a lot of wisdom from that people may not kind of realize. He's a leader for me. He's someone that he's a bit of a role model on like, he's how I would potentially act in an organization if I was in a role like his. So let's start with his quote. Every GM will tell you it's an instinct. It's an instinct to be patient, to react or act, or not to do anything at all. It just comes. What I can say is you must have a plan and a goal and a way to do things. At the end of the day, it's an instinct. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. This is the tough part of being a GM or any sort of leader, and even as a product manager. So I work in tech as a product manager, and I can analyze everything, have a plan and goal, but it ultimately comes down to this instinct you have. And now how you get to that point to pull the trigger, if you will, sorry, not to use anything kind of violent, but like when you decide to jump, maybe that's a better kind of metaphor. It's an instinct. It's that like, yeah, this is time to let go and like take that leap. And Masai did that. Masai had, this is one of his like both high and low points at the same time. And I've always had mixed feelings about it because when he traded DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, which ended up helping us get the chip, and Kawhi was one of my favorite players at the time, so I was like a lot of mixed feelings on that whole situation. Even though mostly I was excited because I think DeMar was worth the trade for taking a risk with Kawhi, but that was an instinct he had. It was an opportunity that came up. The plan wasn't to trade DeMar at all. In fact, they actually said they're going to keep him, which actually created a bit of a sore spot in the relationship that took years to mend actually. But it was an instinct and he went for it. And even when the first press conference, he just says like, guys, you gotta believe. And it's that instinct, and I think he just knows that feeling and he just goes with it. And he trusts, in his case, God and, or like whatever higher power or like spiritual force or whatever you want to call it. Like he believed in that vision that was coming from this sort of higher calling, and he followed through on it. And Masai is kind of inspirational for that. And I always think about what he would do and how he builds teams. He builds teams like the way I build product. Pragmatism, patience, which is how I'm playing the game. If you notice, I'm training my Pokemon constantly. I'm not really playing the game maybe the way that other people might, but I'm kind of drawing those lessons from Masai Ujiri and goes, yeah, let's just like build our players properly and build a really good team. And that's my mindset. And I think basketball is a great kind of metaphor for for kind of building a Pokemon roster. And I thought about this for a long time because I was trying to think about like, how can I use basketball here? Because one of my friends and I, we love talking about basketball. And basketball actually has a lot of life lessons. There's a lot of deep morality in the game that I think is worth kind of like potentially talking about it on its own right. Maybe I might do a video for my own personal channel. But one of the things that I liked about the basketball setup is that you have these positions. So you have the point guard. For those who don't know, the point guard is usually the smallest player or one of the smaller players, and the shooting guard, also a small player. They stay on the outside. They help set up the play and facilitate the playmaking to either coordinate with other players or find a gap and go for the layup. Right? I'm speaking very simply here. I didn't play organized basketball a lot growing up, and I wasn't on any team, so I'm only going based as a spectator. Then you have the small forwards. They're kind of bigger than the guards most times, but they're shorter than the power forwards or the centers. And they're the generalists. They can go anywhere. All players can go anywhere in this game, but the small forward can really help connect pieces, and they're the ultimate generalists. Like, they can guard guards, they can guard the power forwards, the centers, they can do playmaking, they can do defense. There's a lot of like interesting tools that each small forward can have at their disposal. And LeBron James is, like, to me, like the gold standard for a small forward because he does everything, and he's just so good at the game. And again, the ultimate like well-built generalist small forward basketball player. Like, in my opinion, like, I wouldn't say LeBron James, like, he may be like, he's definitely the top 3 players of all time, but how do you classify them, right? And for me, LeBron James has always been, he might be the most complete basketball player ever to walk foot, but he's the best competitor. That's where Jordan kind of takes over there. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. That's not important. We're talking Pokélosophy here. Okay, and then you have the power forwards and the centers. They're usually taller. Power forwards will help do the drives. They'll go for that, like, maybe they'll stay here and they'll run towards the rim or the net, to say, or help do some bigger blocks against the other power forwards and centers on the other side of the court. They're just like, they're almost like the finishers, if you will. And then the same with the centers too. Like, the centers are more stationary usually. I mean, I'm talking traditional basketball here. The modern basketball games are, how can I put this? More fluid and positionless. Like, most players are kind of the same, and they float between all of them because it's a faster game. It's more shooting oriented. But I'm talking about basketball in terms of the more traditional sense. Okay, so that's how the game works. For those who don't know, there's some great videos on YouTube that you can kind of explains how the game works. But the way I'm constructing my Pokemon roster is actually kind of based off this sort of loose framework here. And I have a main roster, which is 8 to 12. Usually basketball teams around 15, 16, I think. 8 to 12 well-developed players, so a core team and then the bench, right? So having a nice deep bench is always good. That's what all championship teams have, a deep bench, because you have to have, because one of the challenges you're going to face when you're going to the playoffs is the fight against attrition, because it's just a brutal time for players. They're just so tired from the regular season that it's basically another season mentally in their head. So the teams that have the deepest benches often do really well in championship situations. Then you have the farm team, and that's actually the daycare center that I dropped my Pokemon off to get level up. So the farm team for, let's say, the Toronto Raptors, it was the Raptors 905, which is actually a place near my parents' place. The arena is near my parents' place. I used to go see, like, some of these NBA players in their rookie years learning to play the Raptors basketball way in the farm team with other rookies and other players in other farm teams, and then hopefully they can go to the main roster. So sometimes players go back and forth, or they play in both, actually. Like one of our new Raptors players, Delano Banton, he's playing for both, right? He'll play for the farm team and the main roster. Sometimes the main roster, you would go to the farm team, heal up, and then practice there, then go back to your main roster if you were injured. There's different ways you can slice and dice this. And then the other area is the scouts. And this is like wild Pokemon or any Pokemon on my PC. And they can move to the farm team. So let's say I have money and time, I can drop a new Pokemon off at the daycare center and level up. That's kind of like the Raptors 905 help, kind of a hands-off approach in developing the players. But I could always go back and move it to the main roster then put it back. So there are 3 stages that are kind of fluid between all these areas, and depending on what I'm trying to do. But usually there's like a main core of players that stay in the main roster, and they rarely kind of go down to the scouts or the farm team kind of grouping area. And that's the way I'm constructing my Pokemon roster. I have 11 well-developed Pokemon, some through developed through the farm team, i.e. the daycare center, and the rest are trained up and were meant to meet my needs. So let's actually go through them. So the guards. Okay, so these are the guards in my main 11 Pokemon lineup. I have Gloom, Butterfree, Pikachu, Dugtrio, and Parasect, of course. For those who haven't seen any other videos of mine, I beat Lieutenant Surge with the Parasect alone. And he's kind of become my spirit Pokemon, or the heart of the team, if you will. But let's start with Gloom. So Gloom, I have a Gloom at level 27, attack 52, defense 50, speed 36, special 58. The moves are Absorb, Poison Powder, Acid, and Sleep Powder. And the best Pokemon the best player I should come up with is Jrue Holiday. So Gloom is not like, I wouldn't say it's the fastest Pokemon, but it's a good all-round, does a lot of things really well. Like good attack, good defense, good special. Speed, not so much, and that's fine. Jrue Holiday kind of reminds me of Gloom in that, like, and by the way, I'm not saying Jrue Holiday is like gloomy or has depression or anxiety, any of that stuff. It's just, he's definitely a more quiet, reserved player out of most of the guards that I'm aware of. And but he does the fundamentals really well. Like he's a guard you want to have on your team, and he won't cause you problems, and he does like the basics really well. And I think Gloom kind of like embodies that a little bit. And I think, from my, my perspective, I find Jrue Holiday can be, I think he needs that like Vileplume. I think he needs a Leaf Stone to evolve into a Vileplume, and that's why I just feel he has one more gear left in his development that's coming in, and it's that taking that quiet side of him and showing it off in a pretty interesting way, which is why I think Gloom's a great kind of metaphor for Jrue Holiday. So I have Jrue Holiday on my team as Gloom.
And it'll be Connaughton, loose one, and blocked away by Jrue Holiday. Holiday does it again.
The whole time you're thinking, what a disaster, and wow, get it out. They got a great chance. They got a shooter, 2 great looks.
Pikachu, of course, level 26, attack 24, defense 24, attack 44, defense 24, speed 62, special 34. The moves are Thunderbolt, Growl, Thunder Wave, and Mega Punch. I taught Pikachu Mega Punch. I don't know why even as a kid, I did the same thing. It's just funny seeing Pikachu learn Mega Punch, because it's also really effective when Pikachu does it. But anyways, best basketball comparison, there's no other. It's Steph Curry. We all know that. Steph Curry, like Pikachu, is the face of the NBA, face of Pokemon, and he has that electricity, that spaz to him, which is quite nice. Champion, like, who can hate this guy? I mean, a lot of people do hate him, but I don't hate him. I love him to death. I love his story. If you can check it out, like, definitely look at his biography and like how he became Steph Curry. He's an example of someone who almost quit over the very thing he became famous for, which is shooting. So great story, and I think that's something that we should all kind of take from, in that the very thing you're probably afraid of or going to quit because of is the very thing that will be the treasure of your life. So in this case, it was shooting. And with Steph Curry, he's electric, fast, and attackers. And with guards, Pikachu's not a defense person. Steph Curry's not a defense person. He's good at defense, but not, I wouldn't call Steph Curry as the top 10 defensive player of the year or anything. That's not his role. His role is playmaking and just like getting buckets. And Pikachu's always been that for me. I'm putting Pikachu in, you're getting Mega Punches and Thunderbolts. That's what it's for. Pikachu's is for those buckets. And Steph Curry, fast player, gets those buckets. And fun fact about his speed, actually, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the average release for a basketball from the hand to the air is about 0.3 seconds. It's like something around there. Steph Curry's is actually 0.24, something like that. It's something like absurd. So he's actually faster than already some of the more average fast releasers in the game. So that's why a lot of times you don't see his shot like being released. He's just too fast. And that's just him shooting the way his body's meant to shoot. And it just shows you once you adapt to yourself, once you know yourself physically, you can really excel. And I think Steph Curry is a good example of that. And same with Pikachu. Pikachu knows the strengths and weaknesses, and it knows how it can win a Pokemon fight. And that's the way I kind of view things, at least from the show anyway.
Curry splits the defense behind the back, fires a three. Oh, he puts it in! What a spectacular move!
That could be the greatest move I've ever seen live. No, I'm being serious.
Stephen Curry, just a spectacular move here. Somehow holds on, fires up the...
All right, Butterfree. Butterfree is a level 25 in my roster. Attack 39, defense 36, speed 52, special 51. The moves are Supersonic, Bide, Confusion, Poison Powder, and the comparison I made here is Chris Paul. So Butterfree is interesting. It's like one of the best Pokemon to have in the early stage of the game. Like one of my friends mentioned that, and I kind of always knew that, but he put it into words a lot better than I could. And Chris Paul kind of represents that. Like he was such a great player like back in his day. He still is. He's an excellent player. But I wouldn't want to have Chris Paul or even Butterfree, in my case, against the Elite Four. Like he's not a late stage player, but Chris Paul and Butterfree in this case will help you get to your goals. That's the way I kind of view things. But using these stats and like what I know about Chris Paul, you know, defense, he's pretty good. I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's good enough. Attack is good enough. Speed, he's fast. He was really fast, especially for his size. And his special is 51. I picked Chris Paul because of these two, speed and special. And the reason why is that Chris Paul, I would argue, might be one of the smartest basketball players to ever walk the court. Like he is, well, at least as a guard, his IQ as a guard is like crazy good. I can't even describe the way he reads the court. And that to me is that speed and special. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, he just reads the room so well, or reads the court so well, that he's able to kind of play make and dazzle the other team in a way, almost like Butterfree. That's the way I kind of view it. But again, he's an older player. He's more of a vet now, and Butterfree's turning into a vet on my team. And he still has a lot to offer, but I wouldn't want to use Chris Paul against a championship team. He doesn't have that experience, and Butterfree, I don't know anyone that had a Butterfree in their Elite Four lineup, so it's kind of fitting. No hate against Chris Paul, love the guy, but yeah, Butterfree is my Chris Paul on the team.
1-2 pick and roll, Harden and Paul. Oh, Chris Paul. Ooh, it's got to go in, Smitty. It's got to go in, Smitty. You are the president of Smitty.
All right, Dugtrio. So Dugtrio is level 26, attack 52, defense 36. So not the strongest defensively, but it has some interesting tricks up its sleeve. Yet speed 77, so really fast Pokemon, and special 48. So nothing. So for the most part, balanced with attack and special, but speed is where you really want it, and it's deceptive speed because it's a ground Pokemon, so you don't often kind of associate it that way. And then defense, again, you don't expect it to have that kind of high defense, but it's a ground Pokemon. It has limitations. You have to have some trade-offs. In this case, it was speed for defense. Moves, Scratch, Growl, Dig, and Sand Attack. It's very basic, nothing crazy here. Best analogy is Fred VanVleet, and I'll explain why in a second. I don't think Fred VanVleet on his own is a Dugtrio. So this is where it kind of gets funny. There's a storyline, and so at least for Fred VanVleet, let me describe him first. Great, like, underdog player, right? He's a digger and a scratcher, right? He can step up to anyone, and I love him for that. You know, I remember in the championship run that the Raptors had, unreal, like the stuff that he did in the final round was just incredible. It really saved us actually a lot of times. Really a lot of high stakes emotions on my end. But where it gets funny, and this is why I picked Dugtrio for Fred VanVleet, he got better after his son was born. During like literally during the championship run, he got like insanely better. It was like he evolved. And he also got better again recently when his other son was born. I believe it was his daughter. I think it was his daughter. And either way, I kind of laughed. I'm like, that's Fred VanVleet. He's Dugtrio. He has him, and his children. It's perfect. So Fred VanVleet is Dugtrio. He's also short too. He's like 6. I think he's 5'11" or 6 foot. I can't remember. So he's like shorter than me. I'm actually 6'3". So I'm taller than both Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, which is crazy because they look so small on the court compared to everyone else. But yeah, so in terms of Fred VanVleet, yeah, he's that like Diglett underdog, and he became a Dugtrio when his siblings were born, or his children were born.
VanVleet goes right at Jerebko. Tough shot. Oh! Banks it home. How did he get that one to go?
Okay, so my last guard, the heart of the team, is Parasect at level 26, attack 60, defense 50, speed 28, special 55. When I saw those stats and I just thought about it for a second, I looked at the picture, there's only one player that came to mind, that was Kyle Lowry. I know there's a lot of Raptors on this roster, but like I think the comparisons are actually quite good. But Kyle Lowry especially, he's the heartbeat of any team. And he does the fundamentals so well. So with my moves, with Parasect fundamentals, down pat. But he's special in his own kind of like quirky way. Like Kyle Lowry knows how to take charges, right? So he's not high defensively, but can take charges in the game. I wouldn't say Kyle Lowry is the fastest player, but he can attack, defend, and he has those tricks up his sleeve. So, and more importantly, again, he's that spirit of the team. He's the he's the story, he's the heartbeat behind the team. And with Kyle Lowry, Kyle Lowry's famous for his like booty. I don't know if you know that. And Parasect has a nice little like mushroom back here, so it just felt so perfect. And for those who haven't seen my video where I beat Lieutenant Surge with a Parasect, it was a Paras that eventually evolved into a Parasite. I beat Lieutenant Surge with just that one Pokemon, with the help of a Gyarados at the end. And that's Kyle Lowry to me. He's that underdog. He's the underdog you overlook a lot. Parasite a lot of times overlooked a lot of people. It's how you use them, right? And Kyle Lowry is just an amazing person. He knows how to use his body and his skill set in a specific way. And he knows how to get you buckets and win games. And he's a great leader. And Parasite kind of represents that for me. There's... Gotta love Kyle Lowry.
Leonard moving on Lowry. It is offensive foul. A charge. He finally got it. Kyle Lowry finally got the offensive foul, something you rarely see in an all-star game. Wow. He guessed right. Kawhi Leonard went right into the body of Lowry. Offensive foul.
Okay, small forwards. So again, small forwards are the kind of generalists, and depends on the size of how you are. You can play different kinds of games as a small forward. So Raticate is my smallest small forward in my head, and it's a level 25, attack 51, defense 23, speed 64, special 38. Moves are Hyper Fang, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, and Water Gun. And I kind of view Raticate more as a guard. Right, but a big guard. But he's also not. He's too big to be a guard. He's also is he a small forward? He's a little too small to be a small forward. So what is he exactly? He's kind of like a small forward that can switch to the guard position and maybe go back to small forwards to maybe play more generalist role. Whatever you have to do. And Raticate's a perfect example of that kind of duality where it has some bite, but it can also play that guard position. In this case, speed and getting an understanding of the lay of the land. So it's kind of like maybe one of the first Pokemons I might use in a battle to get a sense of like who am I versing without knowing anything else against the opponent. And the comparison I came up with was an older player named Latrell Sprewell. And there he is right there. Not many people think about him. Like Raticate's not a Pokemon I think about often, so there's that comparison. He's an NBA All-Star. I think he's 4-time All-Star, 5-time All-Star, I can't remember. But he's a great small forward. He does the fundamentals well. But what I like about him is though he's fast and he can get you that layup and that dunk. Like he's explosive scorer, like amazing scorer. And that to me was like, okay, like probably a guard, maybe a small forward, but he has Hyper Fang. And when he goes for those like, because he's kind of long and slender that way, when he goes for those like dunks or those like layups, it's like Hyper Fang to me. It's just like boom, boom. It's like he's quick, Hyper Fang. That's kind of like the way I viewed it in my head anyway.
Ambi, he cannot pick up his third foul.
Coming in front for the steal is Sprewell. He's gone. Boy, will he play those passing lanes.
Okay, Pidgeotto. Level 25, attack 40, defense 39, speed 48, specials 34. Moves are Gust, Sand Attack, Quick Attack, and Whirlwind. All basics, nothing crazy there. In terms of stats, Pidgeotto is a very balanced person. You know, aside from the specials, is like for the most part, it's kind of the same, and it's a little fast. Best comparison to me is Scottie Pippen. And Scottie Pippen is like one of them, like he was my favorite Bull as a kid because everyone loved Jordan. I still love Jordan, but Scottie Pippen, what to me felt like he's the one that really played a huge role that no one gives enough credit for. And Pidgeotto, and I guess Pidgeot, because right now Pidgeotto is like Scottie Pippen before the prime, but Pidgeot's like full on Scottie Pippen. And a lot of great championship teams that my friends, championship lineups that my friends had in the original Pokemon games, a lot of them had Pidgeot. And Pidgeot's a great generalist to have to help maybe you're supporting, to support the other star Pokemon. And I don't know who my Jordan's going to be, but I know Pidgeot might be my Scottie Pippen that I'll use for support wherever I can. And it's such a good balanced player, player. Not a lot of like flair, just like Scottie Pippen. Like compare that to like Dennis Rodman. That was quite the juxtaposition, if you may. But yeah, he's kind of a boring fundamentalist in some way. But that's fine. You need that. You need that like stability and that generalist and that like that way to support a player. In this case, Pidgeotto with my other Pokemon, or Scottie Pippen with Jordan, to help him become Jordan. Right? So I don't know who that will be for my roster, but Scottie Pippen's a great Pidgeotto, so let's stick with that for now.
Kerr to Pippen. Bulls have some numbers now to Grant. Yeah, between the legs, drop pass by Scottie to his...
Graveler. Okay. Graveler's level 26, attack 63, high defense at 68, speed 31, special 36. Moves are Tackle, Harden, Rock Throw, and Self-Destruct. Basketball comparison, it is Kawhi Leonard before his prime. And it's a perfect analogy in my opinion. And again, this is Kawhi Leonard before he went on the Raptors run. So this is like Spurs Kawhi Leonard. And aside from the obvious point of hands and defense, because Kawhi Leonard's a defensive monster, kind of like Graveler there with all the hands and everything. I wouldn't say Kawhi's the fastest player. He's a fast defensive player, that's for sure. He's not a special player either, but he's kind of stoic emotionally, and he's really good at attack and defense. Like that's just like bread and butter. He's the ultimate two-way small forward. Like he's better than LeBron in that sense, I think. But what's funny though is that he has that like self-destruct part of him, like Graveler, that when that goes off, he just goes like crazy. He just wins. He has this other gear. I think Graveler's kind of like that with like self-destruct. It's kind of Kawhi Leonard just going, you know what, that's it. Boom, 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 right? So because self-destruct will destroy the other Pokemon. So it's a great like strategy if you need to win a crucial game and you don't want to like lose that battle. It's a great strategy to have. That kind of reminds me of Kawhi Leonard on self-destruct, but it is taxing on Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard has a chronic injury on his quad, which is how the Raptors actually got him. But that is taxing on Kawhi, and that's not good in the long run. So it's like a self-destruct in that sense. But at least in defense and attack, that two-way kind of player mindset, Graveler for sure fits the bill.
Second team this year, Jeff.
Yeah, but LeBron James is getting it done. He's got 19. He's going to the line right now. But what do you want is you want a guy who, even when he's getting it handed to him at times, is to be into him. Give no ground. Persevere. Be persistent. And that's exactly what Leonard is being.
Okay, Hypno. Level 26. Level 50. Attack 50. Defense 49. Speed 46. Special 71. Basic moves. I did teach it Flash because why not? And my comparison is veteran or starting to become veteran Paul George. So just some context, I raised a part of Hypno, or I guess Drowsy, at the daycare center for a bit, just to keep level up a little bit. And then I trained it to Hypno afterwards, and taught a headbutt and everything. That's just some background there. In terms of the basketball comparison, I think Paul George really fits the bill quite nicely. And the reason why is that, like, Paul George has a certain emotional evenness to him. He's not like, he's pretty calm. And I think Hypno's a calm individual, or at least, calm Pokemon, if you will. And he's also a really balanced player. Like, Hypno's balanced, just like Paul George. But Paul George has that specialness. When he does enact it, when he gets the chance to do it, he's actually an incredible player. He's overlooked. And this is kind of like my analogy in my past videos, where I kind of said I didn't want an Abra, I wanted a Hypno, because why not? And I think that's a lot of people's mindset with Paul George. It's not everyone's first choice, and now he's becoming the vet, and he's kind of being that, like, balanced presence, and he'll use his special skills when necessary now. That's how he's kind of moving into these days. But with Hypno, overlooked because people want to Abra. Paul George overlooked all the time, but he's really good, and I will love him. Having Paul George even as a vet on my basketball team would be a great sort of addition to the culture. And I kind of view Hypno, part of my Pokemon roster, kind of the same way. It's a great addition to the culture. I need a psychic Pokemon that's underrated, and emotionally to me, that's like, yeah, he's perfect for that. So there he is. Yeah, see, he just has a certain charm and magic, and he's been through a lot too. Like, one of his injuries was like one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in sports history, and he came back from it. And that takes a certain emotional magicness, I think, to 3 weeks later go back to the court in a wheelchair and start shooting buckets. We can all learn from that, and I think Hypno has a kind of like self-belief magic that we can all kind of use to our advantage.
George was 7 of shoot for the Clippers, drives in on Bullock. He goes to the house. Oh my! Hello, nasty!
I think you love this move. I think you like the end of it, by the way. PG throwing it down.
It's nice to see.
Okay. Wow, this is actually my longest video ever, but I mean, I won't be doing these often, so it's I hope people stick around for them. All right, let's do the power forwards and centers. I don't have a true center. They're kind of a hybrid right now. I don't know who my true center will be if I decide to have one, but we'll see. So my first power forward is none other than Charmeleon, level 26, attack 41, defense 50, speed 55, special 45, moves, rage, seismic toss. I taught a seismic toss. I forgot the TM. Ember, Leer, and of course, this is the first time I actually I started with a Charmander. I actually never played the game started with a Charmander before, so it's been kind of fun to kind of go back to your roots and explore. Actually, how Pokélosophy started was because I decided to play the game as Charmander because I'd never done that before, and I just realized that the game has such interesting introspective themes that's how I started the channel. So I owe a lot to me starting with Charmander. And the Pokemon I feel that fits this the best, in my heart, I could be wrong, it's all good, is Pascal Siakam on the Raptors. We drafted him, right? We sniped him, and he was kind of like Charmander. It's a little cute, it's like, who cares, right? But as he continues to evolve as a player and get better, and he's a champion too, so he played a huge role on the team. He kind of had an attitude phase, almost like Charmeleon. Charmeleon goes to that like teenager attitude phase, then he eventually gets better right before he evolves into Charizard, and that's where we're at with Pascal Siakam right now. I think he has that spice to him, almost like a Charmeleon, but it's more in control. He's a burgeoning superstar that I'm willing to bet he actually might be a Charizard in the making, and I think it's going to be really exciting when that happens. And Charmeleon kind of represents Pascal Siakam right now. He's just on my team. He's like eager to like really become that Charizard, and he's getting, and in my head anyway, the way I kind of view it, like Charmeleon's like understands his role now. It's like, yeah, I gotta be that like big monster, and I gotta start now. And I think that's what Pascal Siakam kind of represents to me.
Interesting matchup to keep your eye on. Here's Siakam on the drive. Oh, with the left-handed slam! Oh, stand up for that one, Leo!
Last but not least, my hybrid power forward and center, Gyarados, level 25, attack 80, huge attack points there, defense 55, speed 59, special 64. The moves are all attack oriented. It's tackle, body slam. Body slam's awesome with Gyarados, by the way. I taught it that through the TM, I believe. Dragon Rage and Bubble Beam. There's only one Pokemon that matches Gyarados perfectly. Sorry, one basketball player that matches Gyarados perfectly, and that is Giannis, the Greek freak himself, a player that I've come to love over the years as I learned more about him. And fun fact, Masai Ujiri has actually helped his family emigrate from Greece to North America because they're both Nigerian. So they have like strong ties on, at least culturally anyway. I don't know how the personal relationships are formed, but Masai was Giannis's biggest supporter from day one, even though he went to the Bucks. Like Masai just wanted more Nigerians in the basketball league, which is totally fair. And what I like about why he's a Gyarados, it's very simple. I did a video a while back called The Morality of Magikarp. And the story of Magikarp basically is that Magikarp is helpless and can't do anything. And then the other Pokemon have to support him to... And by the way, I use him for all my Pokemons. I'm a guy, that's all I know, right? So that's only makes sense. If the Pokemon had a gender, which I think the other games do, and some Pokemon in the game have, I will use the appropriate gender. That's not an issue. In terms of Magikarp, though, didn't only learn Splash, and then through exposure with help of the other Pokemon through battles and fighting wild Pokemon, it learned Tackle. Then eventually you tackle on his own and became a Gyarados. Giannis is that story because I think why I like Giannis as a story is that he's inspirational to everyone because he came from a very poor background. He used to sell shoes on the street as he played basketball. Like he had no money. He had no understanding of like what it means to make millions of dollars. There's a story with Giannis where he threw one of the players threw away his shoes when he's like a new Bucks player, and he picked out all the garbage cans. Like, these are fine, because the culture in the NBA is like you have to get shoes all the time. Giannis kept the same pair for like the entire season. I think I forget the exact like timeline. But like he's like, I don't want new shoes. Like, it's fine, because like he knows where he comes from. He used to sell these shoes. He used to find broken shoes and fix them and sell. You know what I mean? Like he was really much on the streets here. And when he came to the NBA, it was like he got all the support from his family, his friends, and he was also like accosted like for racist remarks in Greece, and like he lived a pretty tough life. Is all I'm trying to say. And then this is him as like Magikarp learning Tackle. He's just learning Tackle. Then when he won the championship, he became Gyarados, right? He just dominated in his own right. Monster player, can attack the rim in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. And I wouldn't say he's the best shooter or he has anything super special, but he kind of when I look at Gyarados' stats, I think of Giannis all the time. It's just like he could just attack and do the other things really well, but his main specialty is just really attacking, which I think is what Gyarados represents. But more importantly, Gyarados represents that morality in Magikarp where yeah, Giannis worked hard, he knows his roots, and he will help and die for his team. And that's what we should all kind of like remember about, like when you become famous or when you become better at yourself, know your roots, know where you came from, know what your parents sacrificed, know what your friends helped you achieve, know what your colleagues helped you achieve, and give back to them when you can. And Giannis is so good at that. He's the best in the league at that, because he's a bit of an outsider too, because he didn't come up in the league through the normal circles. And because of that, he's always team and focused and family focused. He's also in Milwaukee. He's not a big market anyway. And so he's just on his own training, but that's who he is. And that's kind of like Gyarados and Magikarp, right? Overlooked people, People thought he was a Magikarp. Who's going to put work into him? He put work into himself. He believed in himself. Now he's an MVP and NBA champion. Great story. And again, someone that came from absolutely nothing. We can all learn and be more like Giannis, is what I kind of always say to myself.
Knocked away and stolen. Here's Middleton. Giannis trailing the lob. Oh! Giannis Antetokounmpo for Chris Middleton.
That boy was up there. Chris Middleton making eye contact with him.
Okay, so there's obviously a life component here. You know, I was trying to use some anecdotes and stories with Pokemon and basketball, but ultimately this channel is about self-introspection and helping yourself become a better person through frameworks and mental models and analogies and metaphors, right? That's all I'm trying to do here. And I tried to apply this basketball positioning to life, in that you have your main talents, your core skills, and with the deep bench, your farm teams. This is where you practice, learn new hobby, experiment, learn. Then you have your scouts, and your scouts are new things you pick up to understand. So I tried to apply that in my own kind of like mindset of like, what are my skills and how are their positions in the game? And when you build a team, and just like Pokemon, you build it around one Pokemon. You pick that Pokemon for what the thesis is, or the argument, or sorry, not argument's the wrong word. What the thesis or the theme of the team you want to build. That's really, really important. My Pokemon was Parasect. I'm building the team around Parasect because he's the heart of the team, right? It's his team. And when it comes to life skills, I'm like, who's that player? Who's that position or whatever? And it's cooking. I really thought about this for a long time, and it's cooking. And because my favorite player is Tim Duncan, and he's known as the big fundamental. He's a power forward, greatest power forward of all time, hands down. He's actually my favorite player, NBA player of all time. And you know, won 5 championships with Popovich on the Spurs, one with Kawhi as well. But cooking is like what I build my life around. It's my anchor hobby now. It's the fundamental. It's the big fundamental in my life, that everything in my life revolves around cooking. The reason why is that I actually learn better when I cook, and when I think about cooking. Because I think cooking, like right now, I'm learning to code. And I have a channel called Cook to Code, and I found learning cooking is helping me learn code and thinking about life and organization. And it's just crazy how much of an anchor it is for me. So I centered my skills and my mindset around cooking now. So when I cook, I'm always introspecting. So it's kind of like paired with the power forwardness. In terms of guards, reading and speed, right? Like speed in terms of like I'm a fast iterator. I just keep moving and I don't know when to take breaks sometimes. Sometimes it's forced breaks without my control. But anyways, reading and speed, yeah, those are my guards. They're the ones that move fast, set up, see the play, kind of, read the court as well as you can and make adjustments to do your playmaking. Small forwards, the generalists that kind of connect the dots between the guards and the power forwards and centers. It's creativity, writing. I have a writing blog that I welcome you to all kind of read. It's called 52250. That's where I write a 250 word essay in a week. Sorry, a 250 word or less essay in a week. So it's really about focused, concise writing and learning. Those are the 3 generalist skills that have propelled me in life in all areas without fail. Obviously introspection, I mentioned cooking already. And then the center, I think this should be everyone's center. I think everyone has this as their center. This is what I'm preaching here a little bit, is your mindset. You have to be anti-fragile, resilient, i.e., keep going kind of thing. And the center is your last defense against a score from the opposing player. It's the rim protector. And if all else fails in your life, if you have a strong center to block players, it's great. It's a great thing to have. So I think everyone should use mindset as the skill to develop to build a really strong center for yourself. And in terms of the farm team, where I'm learning new skills, yeah, it's coding and video and audio, which is what this channel is about as well. So that's how I kind of look at my life in terms of skills and the positions of basketball. and how I kind of like anchor everything. So for me, cooking's the main player is what I really love to do, and everything around my life is anchored around cooking. So how I schedule things, how I learn things, how I interact with people. I love cooking for people. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So those are some ideas that might help you. So I encourage you, if you're basketball fans especially, or any sport, think about how the sport's played. Think about how a game you like is played. Even Pokemon, right? Like, who's your Charizard? Who's your, who's in your lineup? What do they represent? What are your skills? Try to think that way about your skills and your goals, and that can help clear some stuff up on why I like certain things, why certain things don't work with you. Like, for example, in my case here, reason why some of my other things don't work as well for me is because I didn't have a player to build everything off of. I didn't think about it that way until recently. I'm like, oh yeah, cooking is my anchor. Cooking is a huge anchor for me because that sets your schedule. It sets your routines in the week. You read and learn and you're being creative. It's like, it covers everything, and it's a mindset builder because when I'm trying new recipes, they're gonna suck. You gotta stay resilient. It is what it is. So again, I don't know if I was clear or not, but like, I want you to use these sort of frameworks to think about yourself in a more strategic way to help you grow and learn and thrive as a person. I think that's ultimately what I'm helping people try to do with this channel. All right, so this is the main roster for the team. So I'm going to be leaving with these Pokemon in my lineup. The rest are going to be in the PCs. Sorry, I had a little burp there. And it's a Gloom, Pikachu, and a Parasect as my guards. Then I have a small forward and just one small forward as a Graveler, and then the two power forwards with one being a hybrid center as Charmeleon and a Gyarados. So that is a lineup. I worked hard to train a lot of them up, even though two of them have been trained by the farm team, i.e. the daycare center. But I love my lineup. Great storylines as well, just like a good basketball team. And that's it. Thanks everyone for those who actually decided to watch the entire video. I know it was a long video, but I wanted to do a full roster update and really go deep with how I think about building a Pokemon roster to beat the Elite Four. This kind of reminds me of like the Raptors team with Masai getting a handle on like, okay, this team is like grooving now, right? Like, we're not a championship yet. We have a long way to go, but I think it's at a good spot now where the seeds are planted, and I know for sure like Parasect's gonna be in the team, and definitely Charmeleon, or I guess it would be Charizard for sure. The rest, we'll see, but we'll see how everything goes. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. I really, really appreciate it. We had 125 subscribers. Every subscriber means so much to me, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you soon for the next video. Take care, everyone.